Hello everyone, welcome to Affairs Cloud. As we all know, education is one of the most crucial aspects which lays the foundation for the growth and development of a nation. India has had a new educational policy after 34 long years. So in this video, we'll take a look at the new National Education Policy of 2020 in detail. The new National Education Policy was approved by the Union Cabinet on the 29th of July 2020. Now, considering the previous education policies in India, so the first education policy of independent India was formulated back in 1968 and the second policy was formulated in 1986. Few amendments were made to this policy in the year of 1992. So, considering 1986 as the year of the formulation of the policy, it has been 34 years since then to the formulation of this new policy. So briefly, an education policy means that it consists of principles and governmental policies as well as the collection of laws and rules regarding the education system of our country. So this is what an education policy is concerned with. The new educational policy has brought in a multitude of changes to the various aspects of our educational system. Let us start with the changes that has been brought to the schooling structure. So most of you watching this video, including me, we had our schooling in a 10+2 structure where the formal education will start at class 1 till class 10 will be from our primary to our secondary education, and then at class 10 we'll have our board examinations. This will be followed by 2 more years of higher secondary education, and this will finish with the class 12th board examination. So a total of 12 years of formal school education. Although few of you may have also attended the preschool level, which is known as the kindergarten level, this was not part of the formal education system. Now the new schooling structure that has been given according to the new educational policy consists of 15 years of formal school education in total. This is divided into 5 years of foundational stage, 3 years of preparatory stage, 3 years of middle stage and 4 years of secondary stage education. Now these stages, that is the foundational, preparatory, middle and secondary stages, and the changes that have been brought within these stages shall be looked into in detail in the subsequent slides. But the main point here is that now it appears as though 3 years has been increased from the previous schooling structure. So previously it was 12 years. Now the formal education system consists of 15 years. So one may wonder where the extra 3 years are coming from. This is due to the fact that the preschool level, that is the level that covers the age group of 3 to 6, has also been included into the formal educational structure according to this new policy. So this is the main change. As a result of this change that has been brought to the schooling structure, it is expected that the Right to Education Act, that makes it a fundamental right for students in the age group of 6 to 14 to be entitled to free and compulsory education. It is expected that the act shall henceforth cover the age groups of 3 to 18 from the previous 6 to 14 due to the change in the formal schooling structure. Although the amendment has not been made yet, it is expected that such an amendment shall be made. Now let's take a look at the changes that has been brought in each of the stages. So starting with the foundational stage, this consists of 5 years of education in total, split into 2 parts. The first part covers the preschool level of ages 3 to 6 and the second part covers class 1 and 2, that is ages 6 to 8. This stage is also known as the Early Childhood Care and Education stage, ECCE, and the responsibility for framing the curriculum and the pedagogy of this stage lies with the Ministries of Human Resource Development, Women and Child Development, Health and Family Welfare and Tribal Affairs Ministry. So the changes that has been brought in this stage include the integration of the preschool stage into the formal education system, and as a result of this, infrastructure or classrooms for the preschool stage shall now be added to government schools. As a direct result of this, the midday meal scheme that was previously applicable to the age groups of 6 to 18 shall now also cover the preschool stage. Hence, it shall be applicable to the age groups of 3 to 18. Along with the existing midday meal scheme, a morning meal scheme shall also be added. Now, for the time being, since the infrastructure for providing ECCE is not available in governmental schools, it has been proposed that Anganwadis be used for the time being for providing ECCE. A criticism with respect to this has been that Anganwadi staffs are not trained or equipped to handle educational duties. So it must be seen how efficiently this proposal works, that is, using of Anganwadis for providing ECCE. In the foundational stage, the focus is going to be on achieving foundational literacy and numeracy. So literacy means the ability to read and write in a language, and foundational literacy is basically to be able to read and write simple words in a language. And foundational numeracy is the ability to perform basic mathematical operations such as addition, subtraction, etc. It is envisioned that complete foundational literacy and numeracy shall be achieved by the year of 2025. Basically, all children who enroll into a school, by the time they finish their foundational education, that is, by the time of completion of class 2, all of them shall have basic foundational literacy and numeracy. It is envisioned that this shall happen by 2025. In order to achieve this, a national mission on foundational literacy and numeracy shall be established. Also, peer tutoring shall be encouraged as a mechanism for achieving this objective. Now, moving on to the changes in the language policy. It has been strongly insisted that wherever possible, the medium of instruction shall be the mother tongue or the home language of the student, starting right from the beginning of the formal education system from the preschool level until 5th class, preferably till class 8. And this recommendation shall be applicable to private schools also along with public schools. A question that naturally arises here is that what if there is variance of mother tongue among the student population? That is, what if the various students in the same classroom share multiple different mother tongues or home languages? In such a case, a bilingual approach is suggested to be used. Now, this language policy with respect to the usage of mother tongue or home language as the medium of instruction is a welcome move. This is because studies have shown that children, when they are exposed to learning in their mother tongue or the language that they are most comfortable with, show improved learning outcomes. But the fact remains that this language policy is not mandatory. This is only a strong advisory. Also, from what we know, approximately 17% of schools in our country are English medium schools. So this leaves the rest of the 83%, most of which are in mother tongue medium or home language medium. So out of this 17% of English medium schools, since this language policy is just an advisory and not mandatory, we here at Affairs Cloud find it very unlikely that the private schools shall switch from their English medium to the recommended medium of instruction, that is the mother tongue, because of the high demand for English medium education in our country. Also, the 3-language formula has been mandated according to the new policy. What this means is that students will be required to learn 3 languages as a part of their curriculum, and out of these 3, 2 must be Indian languages. So what is most likely is that in most of the schools, out of the 3 languages, 1 is very likely to be English. Other language, the second language is most likely to be the language where the school exists. Say the school is situated in Madhya Pradesh, it is very likely that the second language shall be Hindi. And the third language is supposed to be an Indian language according to this policy. Now this is just a likely scenario, not necessarily how it will happen. And this choice of language shall be left to the state, school and students. It has been proposed that exchange of teachers take place between the states for executing this 3-language policy. For example, Malayalam teachers could be recruited from Kerala into Tamil Nadu, and Tamil teachers could be recruited from Tamil Nadu into Kerala. Just an example. Along with this, a standardized Indian Sign Language shall also be created. The 3-language formula has also been met with some resistance. Recently, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu has stated that the state will never allow the 3-language policy and has rejected the NEP proposal. He had called the centre's plan painful and saddening and asked the Prime Minister to reconsider the 3-language policy and allow the states to implement their own policy on the subject. Moving on to the middle stage of schooling. So this stage covers the age group of 11 to 14, that is classes 6, 7 and 8. And the most significant change with respect to this stage is the inclusion of vocational education into the curriculum. So vocational education is the training of skilled crafts. For example, pottery, paper craft, carpentry, etc. are examples of vocational skills. And a 10-day bagless period shall be especially allocated for training in the vocational skills. Other than this, coding, that is computer programming, shall be introduced in the middle stage. Also, excerpts from the Indian Constitution shall be made essential reading for students in the middle stage. Moving on to the secondary stage in the schooling structure. So this stage covers classes 9, 10, 11 and 12. Now the most significant of the changes that has been brought in this stage is that there shall no longer be any hard separation between streams or branches. So I'll explain what this means. While we all did our schooling, after our class 10th board examination, we'll have to choose between streams. So we'll either have to pick science or commerce or humanities. Now these were the three most commonly available streams in most of the Indian schools. We could either pick science or commerce or humanities, and accordingly the subjects that we study shall be within that stream only. So we cannot pick a subject from science, another from commerce and another from humanities. Now, according to this new policy, I'll give an example of what you can do. You can pick physics, which is a subject from the science stream, and along with it you can even pick economics, which is a subject traditionally associated with the commerce stream. So this approach to education is known as the multidisciplinary approach, that is, study of subjects between different disciplines. And this approach is being encouraged in the new educational policy. Now let's take a look at few other changes which is applicable across the different schooling stages. So with respect to the public exams, along with the class 10 and class 12 public exams that we have currently, public exams shall also be conducted at the end of class 3, class 5 and class 8. The class 3 public exam in particular shall be aimed at testing the foundational literacy and numeracy of the students. Other than this, students shall now be allowed to take the class 10 and class 12 board examinations up to 2 times. Also, the subjects and the corresponding assessment in these classes could be offered at 2 levels, one at a standard level and another at a higher level, and the board exams of these subjects could be redesigned to have 2 parts, one part with an objective type multiple choice questions and another a descriptive type. Now both of these changes are aimed at reducing the high stakes, that is the high pressure effect that is associated with board exams. Next, we look at changes with respect to curriculum and syllabus. The NCERT shall undertake the formulation of a new National Curricular Framework for School Education, NCFSE, and this shall be done in consultation with the other stakeholders, which in this case means the state governments and the concerned ministries. The NCFSE shall work the frontline curriculum needs. And leading on from this, the state curriculum shall be based on the NCFSE and the state textbooks shall be based on the NCERT to the extent possible. The NCFSE document itself shall be updated every 5 to 10 years. Other than this, PARAK, which stands for Performance Assessment, Review and Analysis of Knowledge for Holistic Development, which is a National Assessment Center, shall be established. This is a standard setting body under the Ministry of Human Resource Development, and the functions of this body shall include setting norms, standards and guidelines for student assessment process. Changes with respect to school teachers is as follows. The 4-year integrated B.Ed program is now the minimum requirement for school teaching, and career growth has now been made eligible within the same vertical strata. This is in order to maintain equality between the different stratas of school teaching. Also, a national professional standard for teachers, NPST, shall be established by the year of 2022. Few steps have been proposed in order to improve the inclusivity of all sections of population into education. Among them, districts that are classified as aspirational districts and other areas and regions with large proportions of socio-economically disadvantaged groups, abbreviated as SEDGs, shall be targeted, and some of these regions shall be announced as special educational zones, abbreviated as SEZ. It is expected that in these special educational zones, additional concerted efforts shall be taken in order to improve the inclusivity in education. All of the scholarships for socio-economically disadvantaged groups shall henceforth be coordinated and announced by a single agency. A gender inclusion fund has also been set up in order to address the gender disparity in education. The transgender students shall also be beneficiaries of this fund. Now that we have covered most of the changes in schooling structure and school education according to the new National Education Policy, let us move on to the changes in higher education. At first, let's take a look at the vision for higher education according to NEP 2020. It is envisioned that there shall be a higher educational institution in or near every district, and all higher education institutions are envisioned to be made into multidisciplinary institutions by 2040. All affiliated colleges are envisioned to be developed into autonomous degree granting colleges over time. Two of the most significant visions regarding higher education in the new policy are that 50% has been set as the target for gross enrollment ratio in higher education by the year of 2035. And 6% of GDP has been proposed to be spent on education. I'll briefly explain what gross enrollment ratio is before proceeding. So, gross enrollment ratio is the percentage of people who after the completion of class 12th enter into higher education. I'll take a sample here. Say 100 people complete their class 12th, and among this sample, only 25 of them enroll themselves into higher education. Then 25% is the gross enrollment ratio in higher education for this sample. As we noted, the target for expenditure on education has been set at 6% of GDP. But here we note that as a percentage of the central budget, the expenditure on education has been steadily declining. It was 6.15% of central budget in the financial years of 2014 to 15, and by the time of financial year of 2017 to 18, it has declined to 3.71%. The expenditure on education as a percentage of the gross national income has also shown steady decline, and the budget that has been allocated to the Human Resource Development Ministry has also been declining steadily. Also, only 3.1% of the GDP was allocated to education in the budgetary estimate of 2019 to 20. Interestingly, this target of achieving 6% of GDP on education was a part of even the 1968 and 1986 educational policies. But as we know, this target has not been achieved so far. Talking about the vision of achieving 50% gross enrollment ratio in higher education by 2035, I would like to point to you the fact that out of all the Indian states, which has a population of a minimum of 20 lakhs, which will exclude Chandigarh and Sikkim, Tamil Nadu has the highest gross enrollment ratio in higher education at 49%, compared to the All India average of 26.3% as of 2018. Notably, Tamil Nadu has a very robust reservation system, according 69% reservation to the socially and educationally disadvantaged groups in the state, and the state has been a leader in the implementation of the centrally sponsored Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan scheme. Also, the state has the second highest number of government or government aided medical colleges and the highest number of engineering colleges out of all the states in the country. Few changes have been made in the structure of the undergraduation program. From now on, there shall be multiple entry and exit points available. Along with that, also a digital bank of academic credit system shall also be available. I'll briefly explain this digital bank of academic credits. So, suppose you enrolled into an undergraduation program, and the completion of this program requires acquiring 120 credits. But you dropped out after first year and you had acquired only 40 credits. Now, after 5 years of doing some other job, you plan to rejoin the course, and in that case, the 40 credits that you had acquired previously shall be saved in the credit bank, and you only need to obtain the rest of the 80 credits to get your undergraduation degree. Now regarding the exit options, there shall be an exit at 1 year. You'll get a course completion certificate for that 1 year, and exiting at 2 years will give you a diploma. Other than that, you can obtain a normal 3-year undergraduation or a 4-year undergraduation with research degree. Regarding the duration of the master's program, if you have completed a 3-year normal undergraduation degree, your master's will consist of 2 years. And if you have completed a 4-year undergraduation with research, your master's will consist of 1 year. The MPhil program, which acted as a bridge between the master's and the PhD program, has now been scrapped completely. PhD program shall now be eligible after completion of master's or the 4-year undergraduation with research degree. And some aspect of teacher training shall be included in all PhD programs. Regarding research, it has been proposed to establish a National Research Foundation, NRF, that shall focus exclusively on research that is ongoing in various educational sectors. And it is envisioned that over time, NRF shall be made independent of the government and shall act as a liaison between researchers and relevant branches of the government in order to inculcate recent research into government policy making and improve the outcomes of government policies. Regarding globalization of education, it has been planned to set up campuses of world elite universities in India. So universities such as Oxford, Harvard, which are renowned world over, it is proposed that campuses of such universities shall be set up in India, and also branches of Indian universities are also being planned to set up abroad. The regulatory system of higher education shall also be revamped according to the new policy. So previously, the functions of regulation, accreditation, funding, and academic standard setting were undertaken by the same body. According to the new policy, a Higher Education Commission of India shall be set up, and this shall consist of 4 independent verticals which will take care of these 4 different and distinct functions separately. Starting with the National Higher Education Regulatory Council, this shall act as the single point regulator for all higher education except for teacher, legal and medical education. And the National Accreditation Council shall be the second vertical, and it shall take care of the accreditation process of education. The Higher Education Grants Council shall take care of the funding and financing of higher educational institutions, and the General Education Council shall be the 4th vertical under HECI, and it shall frame the expected learning outcomes of higher education. As we have learnt in this video, the new National Education Policy attempts to majorly revamp the education system. But at the same time, it must be remembered that education is in the concurrent list, and hence it is the combined responsibility of both the union government as well as the state governments in order to make policy decisions on education. Hope you liked our video. Please leave your feedback in the form of comments, and please remember to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.